What you? One thing about me, I mean, there's a lot of things about me, but one thing about me is that I truly feel that I'm a human jukebox and I have just music is unlocked in my brain from a young age from like Suzuki and learning music. And for me, I hear something and then I can go try to figure it out. But I truly have like 90s, 2000s, and all these songs. And so I'm constantly triggered by things that JD says, things that Cameron and Cruz say, and I get a little twitch and I just start belting it out, like whatever song it could be. Um, so if you come and hang out, it'll happen. And I love it and I embrace it now. Um, you're looking at the family travel agent. How many moms I feel like, wow, the collective travel power of moms. I'm sure there are travel planner dads out there. I can speak from the mom. The amount of after hours bedtime all-nighters that I've pulled on travel arrangements when I mean we actually haven't traveled that much, but it's something I enjoy and I did it before we had kids too when I cakey children. I'm not a big fan of kids for whatever reason. I've never loved it. It just doesn't feel reverent to me. But I would plan our trips during residency for JD and I, and it was just something that I saw a quote in an open air lobby in Cambodia when we were staying outside of Siem Reap, and it said, "Travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer," and that is one of the life mantras for me. I fully there are some things I do splurge on. I feel that I'm pretty mindful about um, spending in other areas, but travel and but even with travel, I think through it pretty extensively. But travel and good photographs, and I'm gonna start doing more videography type of stuff. For me, are fully worth and investing, and I resonate with those very much because the experience for me, it's like the quality time spent, the perspective shifts, the amount of learning and humility that comes for me. There was a time in my life during residency and long hours clinically, which I was fulfilled in some ways, and in other ways, I was still very much in a former version of Anik that was following a prescribed path and still holding on to a lot of limiting beliefs and still performing and trying to stay within perceived safety of like a people pleaser and serving people, which is a noble thing. And I'm still serving. I'm just doing it in an expanded way that feels more raw, real, vulnerable, and outside the lines, and honoring of me in that way that I've always been kind of a wildling. But anyway, so in that phase of life, I will say like travel was something that felt like a lifeline. It felt like a vital sign. It felt like, okay, I need to have the next trip planned so I can live my life from point A to point B. And obviously I'm somebody that derives a lot of enjoyment out of the everyday, but in the grind of that season of life, in the hard that it was, I'm going to own that. I would look forward to the next trip with JD because it could be this, you know, just uncharted time together. And I remember planning a trip to Jordan, the country Jordan. We had like 6 days or something. And I planned a trip for us and purchased the tickets on Emirates all the way from, I don't think the whole thing was Emirates, but like we flew to LA and then Emirates from there. And my mom was like, you do know it's like this, extravagantly long plane ride. And I remember thinking truthfully and fully with every cell in my body, meaning it, that if somebody told me that I was going to sit down in a flight for 13 hours, hopefully not sit for the entire 13 hours, but move around and drink water and, you know, get the blood flowing, prevent stasis and potential clots. And I was going to be able to watch movies and eat, not have a pager attached to me. Like, yes, we had multiple pagers, and a Volt phone, which was like a cell phone used within the hospital only for like texting and people on the clinical teams to communicate, that would feel like a true vacation. And it did. And so anyway, and then inevitably after these epic vacations where for me, like in during residency in the 3 years we did, um, the first year, I guess, yeah, I'm not using this video camera correctly over here. So we have a DJI and JD has been trying to get me to use it as like the webcam or like hooked up. Anyway, I'm gonna figure it out one day, but for now I'm here. Um, the first year, my first vacation was, I mean, they don't give any of this away. So we got 3 weeks a year um for vacation. And it's super strict and stringent. And obviously being in Hawaii, things are far. And so I think I used like one of the weeks or at least a few days for my nephew had a kidney transplant. That's now 10 years ago. My sister uh, donated her kidney to her son, who was in toddler infant at the time, toddler, young wobbler. And so I was able to go and be there for that monumental um, life-giving experience. That's for another life download. And then with the rest of that year, I'm trying to think of what vacation we took, but we did do a Southeast Asia trip, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand, northern Thailand. That was super epic. We did the Jordan trip. We did my third year was Hawaii with Camden. It was during the Zika virus, so we chose Scandinavia, and we did that. So that was in Norway, Sweden. I also presented research in Scotland. Then there was obviously a lot of inter-island trips, like during residency, we did Lanai and Molokai and Kauai uh, in Maui for a conference. And Japan, we did Japan on our own. And then with Camden, did we do it on our own or just with Camden? I think maybe just with Camden when Camden was born. Like, so that was probably during fellowship because I because travel is like a lifeline, right? Think of this. So my third year of residency, I, believe it or not, as a pediatrician, wanted to start a family, like shocker, right? A person who's a baby doctor wanting to have babies. But I was the first person in my residency for a very long time, and I'll definitely download these thoughts that have been percolating and swirling. And I think I've landed in a beautiful way to tell the story reverently about the state of clinical medicine and the struggling support of new moms. But I chose to deviate from the path and take the 12 weeks with her. I also had significant, tearing postpartum hemorrhage, like recovery for myself as a mom. And I wanted those sacred moments. And I became very good at saying no and very good at starting to learn to lean into protecting my peace. And for me, that looked like stepping out of the prescribed, mandatory, voluntary mandatory, come back as soon as you can, even though you just had an infant and work these insane hours. So I took the 12 weeks, and because I did that, I did not get, there is no maternity leave. So I used every vacation. My maternity leave was vacation, those 3 weeks of vacation for the entire year. And then every single day thereafter was a day that was tacked onto the end of my residency that I like in effect paid back. So my residency co-residents graduated at the end of June, and I remained in residency until August, I think mid-August. And then I went right into fellowship because I was blessed to get into a fellowship also in Hawaii. And I was very upfront with them about, I was nervous how that would look. And, just the divine blessings were upon me that, they only take one fellow per year and it's competitive. And I was chosen, but they were willing and able to work with me on me starting late, which I was so scared was going to be a scarlet letter red flag. But at the time, I just chose to live into all of those potential roadblocks and say, being a mom and doing this, stepping into this power is my path. I'm not going to deviate from that anymore. And it all did work out like a blessing. But all that to say in the context of I guess it was February of February of 2016, the year I graduated from, no, February of 2017. Sorry. The year I graduated from, no, February 2016. That was like when I was Hopai. I was pregnant with Camden and we took our baby moon, which was our vacation that day, that month. So from then on until I graduated fellowship in August of 2018. Well, no, fellowship, I got to have fellowship was so much more family friendly for me. But so from February of 2016 through, yeah, at least like the spring of 20, I guess like the fall. Okay. Fall of 2017, like there was a year and a half of like no vacations because, I had a baby. And so I don't know what people think you do on maternity leave. But for me, I had an infant and I was up all the night and I was healing and it's no vacation. It's a choice and I love it. And I can drop right back into those Olympics that we watched. And I think we did some reality TV. I think I watched what's it called? Bachelor in Paradise that summer and ate like lasagna leftovers and delicious food that people had brought me, delicious grinds that our chosen ohana on Oahu had come around us with. But anyway, there was a huge long puka with no vacation and travel, and that was really drying for my soul. And then in my fellowship year, we were able to celebrate with a quick weekend in Molokai once I passed my pediatric boards. We took Camden to Japan. And we also went on a surf trip to the Mentawais, I believe, Indonesia. That might have been after. I think that was after I graduated fellowship to celebrate it. But I do think we went to Japan with Camden like during the fellowship year. And then I had another vacation to Florida, which was really a conference that I presented at, and I had surgery like the day after I presented. So, and I'll speak to that. It was like some tumors that I had in my neck, and I had kidney stones and stents, and yeah. But all that to say, travel used to be something that I would always kind of dangle in front of myself like, okay, this, if you work hard and put your head down and plunge yourself underwater and hold your breath, then you can finally come up and do it. And I lived that way for many years. And then it was like something I felt I had to earn. And then also there would be the inevitable for me, like post-travel blues, meaning like, okay, I got to get back to the grind. And I just had this amazing experience of spending really exorbitant amount of time with my husband and just getting to be together and suspended in a new adventure, learning new cultures. And I feel really vibrant and alive in those times. Like, don't get me wrong, like I love a bougie hotel or a massage. But I'm somebody that when I travel, like I seek out cultural experiences. I want to do my best to assimilate to the culture and learn the language and try to immerse in experiences that are, to my knowledge, which I realize is in its infancy in places I go to that I don't know or haven't traveled before, but that can potentially be giving back to the local economy and for me to leave with a greater profound perspective and like an insatiable quest for learning about that culture and how I can grow as a human, how I can listen, how I can learn, how I can hear their stories. And so that's something I seek out. And oftentimes we are the kind of people that travel to new places every time, and we're often more exhausted than when we left. Like we're not rejuvenated by a vacation in the physical, like restful sense because we're on the go adventuring, doing as much as we can, fitting as much as we can into the timeline, into the itinerary. So I love doing those. And I remember planning the Japan trip, the South Asia trip, the Norway trip, all of them. And I think I do a beautiful job. And then as a mom, I've planned trips for us when we were up high with Cord. I came home from Halloween trick-or-treating and I planned a whole trip to Bali via Japan and Singapore for us, our family of four at the time when we were pregnant, up high with Cord. And obviously lots of mainland trips in the interval time because we try to, when you live in Hawaii, I feel like our entire perspective has changed. I mean, it feels like it is the United States, but in many ways it feels like, we're on the fringe and we are. It's the most isolated island chain in the world. And so I feel like um, when we go to the mainland, we're like, oh yeah, feels like everything's in the backyard. We're gonna go to California and see our chosen ohana there, and then we're for a while, JD's mom was in Phoenix, and we'll go to Phoenix, and then we'll make it over to Orlando area where my family's from. I mean, those are cross country trips, but we freak. That's what we do. Like we go see everybody, trick or treat at everybody. Um, and so we are on the cusp of another mainland trip that we're going to couple with a work trip for JD. And so once again, we're going to traverse the country seeing everyone. And I've been kind of wrestling with the logistics of how we're going to make that work. We want to go to Alabama and see my sister and our just do that because that's been something that's been on our hearts for a while. Just see the flow of life. Um, and anyway, last August, we did an RV trip because Cord was 5 weeks old, and we basically took our newborn bubble on the road and went to a family wedding in Washington State. And we resonated so much with the RV life. We rented an RV through Indie Campers, which was a great company. And it actually prompted us through the rest of JD's paternity leave to research RV life. And we do see ourselves, we've had this, I've had this, and JD's on board with it too, but growing divine nudge to, show our children. We are so thankful and grounded in raising our keiki in Hawaii. We feel very called to that. It feels very honoring of the family structure, the family unit, celebratory. I feel like Hawaiian culture is very celebratory of children. Having worked in healthcare here as a pediatrician and just lived here for the past decade, I love it. I think it's behind in a good way in terms of just for me, I find it easier to align with my goals in parenthood, which are to raise, competent, empathic, compassionate, curious human beings, and also travelers and adventurers and wildlings who resonate with nature, and to preserve I feel like my role is to preserve their childhood for as long as I can. And there are just many wide open spaces and places here where I find that to be honoring of my goals, our goals as parents. And so we have that dream to continue to raise our family here and also to travel extensively as we're blessed to beyond the reef, and all of us to continue to grow our perspective with other cultures, and also the vastness of our own beautiful country from sea to shining sea and all the mountains in between. And so we have Passport Ohana is like the name that came and resonated with us. And for me, it's not only about collecting passport stamps, but it's about making adventures out of the magical mundane, the messy magical, the colorful chaos, I call it, whether it's like a trip to Costco or, traveling to some days, the most exotic thing I do is getting the Amazon boxes from the end of the driveway and everything that happens in this beautiful paradise of our yard and the forts that are built, and that's where we travel. And so I'm say this to say that I've expanded so much in my sense of travel to define it because I have built the life that I want to live and the life that I dreamed of, and I live into that every single day. And I'm blessed every breath that I take that I stepped off the treadmill of a life that wasn't fully aligned for me, and I'm here creating this messy magical life alongside JD. And so travel means travel through every day that we're given, every day that we're blessed. And it could mean getting a passport stamp from a foreign country, but it more often means going to get the mail and picking up dog poop and what is involved in the everyday flow of life. So that's what Passport Ohana is to me. And I actually just created a logo that juxtaposes Camden with a pink mermaid tail and Cruz with a coconut palm, and green, his favorite color, and Cord with a blue wave for Nalu, Hawaiian for wave, and it has a paw print. And I created with a really cool graphic designer who's actually based in Montenegro, a country that ironically really feel called to visit. And so I'm excited to grow that. I hesitate to say brand because really it's just meant to reflect us and to for us to step into that and have fun with it. and allow it to be part of our domestic adventures with RV travels. We envision a fifth wheel and a truck pulling a big fifth wheel. And I have this vision board of what that looks like. And we've watched countless YouTube videos and dropped into the lane, pun intended, of what RV life looks like. And then also feeling called to, lots of international travel, foreign flavors. And obviously figuring out how to do that with Kai Kai, our first baby, and how not to be away from him for too long. And often he is the first ingredient, the first factor in every trip we plan. There's only one place on Maui we take him. It's this amazing place up country, up on the Haleakala, that's like probably 4,000 or 5,000 feet. The temperatures are glorious. He's loved, he's adored there. And then if we're on Oahu, he returns to what I call Husky Hale, which is where he was born. His breeder and his mom and his bloodline, his sister and other huskies are still there, and he gets to play with them. So we're very particular on where he goes, being in the mischievous Hawaiian husky boy that he is. And so with this upcoming travel, because there's so many different stops and so many different family members that we desire to validate and visit and make memories with, initially I was looking at hotels and trying to think, like, I'm determined to, I'm a student of everything, right? So I'm trying to understand like how to use our Amex. We recently, within the past few years, switched our credit cards to Amex for business and personal, and understanding how to transfer points and really, drop into that game. I've been inspired by some fellow female physicians. I belong to a female physician travel group, and other people be really successful at transferring points out to, could be hotels, could be flights. But I have a deep desire to understand that and maximize those values. And also JD has some interesting portals through IBM Travel, and then Costco also has some deals. And then I'm good at finding like Kama'aina, which is when you live in Hawaii. And yeah, so obviously there's so many pieces when you put those together. And I often have like a few hours after bedtime happens to that I get to sit down and nourish myself. And recently I've tried to infuse in this travel planning. So Mama Travel Agent, Mama, what's a good flow for that? Travel Agent Mama at your service. Like, I don't know. So essentially like trying to coordinate flights and rental cars. Now as a family of 5, when Kai Kai stays on island, we're showing up 5 deep. And so my parents have space for us, but we don't expect or anticipate that. So lodging accommodations in like a car, right, that we need to rent to be able to go and do these adventures and stuff. Anyway, so that seemed like I can do that, and I can find all these one ways and coordinate all of that. But this trip we had like a lot of fun experiences we want to take them on, like going to Disney, hopefully. And so it started to plant in my head, we can RV again, because they thrived in it. They loved like sleeping up in the top bunk above, and there was plenty of space for us. And we can also kind of, I think, rein in some of the food spending that gets out of control when you're traveling, and also be more aligned with health goals. We love the reverse sticker shock when we go to the mainland of going to Trader Joe's, Publix, Whole Foods, like all of those places. And probably and you can stay in Walmart parking lots and stuff. So anyway, if we have an RV, we can like stock the refrigerator and have food on hand and not play the hangry game. And that's really appealing. And we can get Starlink and kind of continue to stay connected. So that's what kind of, I haven't been resisting planning the travel. There's just been a lot of other things to juggle. I had the book launch this week for the Aina This Lahaina. And, I school, I'm second grade teacher and pre-K teacher every day, and mom of a busy, vibrant, fierce female 15-month-old cord. I've been day one mentality every day to continue to move my body. I alternate between cardio on the bike and strength classes every other day. And every day I'm doing postpartum core, and I'm really tapping into healing myself from the inside out, the deep pelvic core muscles, I want to speak to the pelvic floor in another one, but the TVA, transversus abdominis muscle, it's like the girdle in there. So, and then I sit down and journal and read and write and create. And and record. And speaking my story has been a big part of that. So fitting in travel agent is a glorious distraction, not even a distraction, but like just an interjected uh, another um, way that I can choose to spend my time, and I have been. So I am feeling more called, and I found like a route, I think tonight where we can RV. So we might be RVing on this next upcoming trip, Passport Ohana, hitting the road, getting some more miles, surfing that pavement now instead of the beaches of Maui that we frequent. So we shall see. But I do dream and manifest a lot of travel in our future as we pivot to Kauai and as we pivot to um, more travel beyond the reef, internationally and domestically, and what that might look like. And so I've always been the kind of person where you may not feel like, for me, it's always true, like we may not feel like we have the exact amount saved up that we want, or it's the exact amount of time, but oftentimes we have enough momentum and I buy the plane tickets. So it's legitimized, it's happening, almost like you build the frame of the house, you build the foundation, and then you kind of start adding the details after that. And similar to working out, I have never said like I regret taking that trip, because it's always perspective gaining, and it builds our marriage, and it builds our children's perspective, and new questions come up and new learning opportunities come up. And I'm so thankful for the life that we've built and have been creating with intentional steps to. It's important to JD and I both, like how we define wealth in this season of life is time and geographical freedom. And so because of our roles and how we're working and shining out in our gifts and the choices we've made for education for our children, we are able to do that with relative ease. So, but ironically, we have been like home very much in Maui just for financial grounding and realistic, choosing to live the life we do and be present with our babies. And so, yeah, I think this upcoming travel with RV seems to be something that we'll have fun with, something that makes sense to preserve costs in a more grounding way. So maybe we can also travel for Christmas this year. So that's what's swirling around in my head right now. And I'm just fresh off a little travel agent vibes. And I feel like I'm a whole vibe when I've got travel agent Anik mommy mode on. So travel is the only thing we buy that makes us richer. Aloha.